time to shift gears. This is the Man Shift Guide.
Welcome back. This is the Man Shift Guide, and hopefully, if you're returning, you would know that our purpose here is to talk to other guys, and we talk about purpose. We talk about overcoming hardships in our lives, overcoming all that kinds of stuff, and hopefully inspiring others. And if you're new here, I hope that we inspire you to go out there and do the thing that you always wanted to do, and hopefully also earn possibly a follow or a subscription. We'll see. But in the meantime, we're going to talk to my friend here, who is a podcast creator himself. If you're watching YouTube, you can see all of the glorious background that he has. And I don't want to give away spoilers, so I'm just kind of leave it up to him to kind of introduce himself, and we will go from there. So, by all means, take it away, friend.
Yeah. Well, I'm Corey McClendon. One of the hosts of Yoders Talk. We're on YouTube. We're a podcast that is built around helping people lead with a purpose. That's our goal, is to help unlock that inside of each person's life and hopefully get them from the place they are to the place they're supposed to be. So that's kind of a scratch on the surface of what we do. So
Sure. And we briefly talked earlier, and I had said that I watched the first video that you guys had produced. Um, And really, just by like the first half an hour or so, I was like, I'm really into this. Like,
yeah,
very, very inspired by the message that you guys were sharing and the way that you deliver it, and having the same purpose and kind of like mantra and idea for my own podcast here. Kind of wanting to have the same vision. So it's nice to collaborate with somebody who's kind of on the same
yeah.
mission. And I guess where I want to start is kind of like what has driven you to create such a podcast? Like, what is your story and behind all of this?
Yeah. Well, I think to get to the meat of it, I have to say this. This is not what I wanted to do with my life.
Mm.
Right? So like I never set out and said like, "Hey, I'm going to do the whole podcasting world." Like I'm a big podcasting buff. Like I listen to like just tons of just great, there's so much great content out there that you can listen to. And so we so me the other host of the podcast is actually the owner of the business that I work in.
Mm.
And so he called me one day and he was like, "Hey, our social media manager was like, hey, we need to start a podcast." And I was like, okay, that's cool. Like, thinking he was like wanting some expertise of like, cause he knew I listened to podcasts and stuff. And I was like, well, yeah, like I can, help you out on that. And he's like, well, I really want you to be the co-host. And at that point I was like, dude, I don't even know what that looks like. Like, what does that even mean? And so we kind of talked about it, kicked it around, and honestly, it went from like we're thinking about doing it to like we're recording our first episode very, very quickly. Like I'm talking like in a matter of 3 weeks.
Wow.
So like it flew, and then all of a sudden like we're sitting on a couch with a microphone, in front of me, and like we hit record. And like I think there is a little bit of there's sides of there's a lot of people that sit there and they have dreams and they have things, and they sit there and they're like, hey, I gotta make this thing perfect. But I think there's something to just hitting record and just going for it. Now, if you go on our YouTube channel and you watch the first video, we've got couches and everything's just kind of thrown together. And then you look at like our last season, you can tell like, hey, there's been some improvements, right? And even like I feel like I'm getting better as a host, but not something I would want to do. But now when I look at my life, it's a central pillar in what I do. Like I get a ton of joy and fulfillment through doing the podcast and talking and having intentional conversations with people, trying to help them unlock that purpose inside of them.
So, what do you think it was that drove to even ask you to become this co-host? Like, obviously, he saw something in you that was like, okay, this is a really purposeful guy, or there's just something about you. Do you know what that was, do you think?
I think we've talked about it some. I think at first it was I'm a yapper.
Huh.
So like I'm a natural people person. So like I love having great conversations and stuff. But I think some of it is like I'm like a jack of all trades but a master of none. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So like I've done a lot of different things. Like I've been in the corporate world. I've been a pastor at one point. You know, I've done this, done that. And so like there's a lot of things that I get to pull off of to kind of pull experiences in and stuff like that. And I think that helped a ton. But at the same time, me and him are able to bounce off of each other really well. And we can kind of, especially now, we can kind of see, you know, without any verbal or physical cues, like, hey, he's about to say something, you know, let him go and things like that. And that's kind of some of let's shop talk of some of the things like a host and a co-host needs to be able to do.
Sure.
But we're really great friends, and you know, there's days that I sit there and I go like, why did he pick me? And then there's days where I'm like, you know, I'm so thankful, you know, that I was given that opportunity to, you know, to do this because it changed my life.
Sure.
Not through like, because I don't ever want to be famous or anything like that. That's not my goal. Actually, we have a deal. If the podcast ever becomes about us, like and all about center focused on us, then we shut it down. So we intentionally try to just focus on helping others, and if we can do that, then we're successful. So that's kind of that's why I think, but also like Clinton, our host, and really he's my boss. He does such a great job of seeing characteristics inside of people, and even when you don't believe it in yourself, he does a good job of pulling those out of you.
It's amazing.
So
yeah, it's amazing.
Sometimes it's just a character thing that some people just have that a gift and ability, and I definitely think he has one of them.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's awesome to be able to have friends like that to be able to kind of pull the best out of each other. So that's really cool. So for sure, definitely going to go back and on my free time to continue to listen to more to that because like, you know, I love the message and I love the stuff that you guys have put out. So that's great. So that's the podcast side. So we kind of talked about that, but now I kind of want to talk more about you because like
Yeah.
you reached out to me, obviously because you wanted to promote the podcast, but like there's other stuff that you kind of felt like you wanted to share, right? Like
Yeah.
you kind of gone through a divorce. I don't know how long ago that was, but you kind of talked about how as you were, um, I don't want to say recovering from that because it's not like a recovering like you would recover from like an injury or something. But as you were learning to heal from that and kind of like figure out what you wanted to do and all those things, you said something to me that was really really poignant, and that you said that you found yourself well not like through change, but like you found yourself by like sticking to your merits, sticking to your guns.
Yeah.
The best is how I could explain it.
Yeah. I think so. Number one, that's a very challenging season to walk through, and I agree. There is a healing that has to take place. So what I mean by that is like you almost go through like a crisis of identity, and so you kind of go into a situation where you're like everything I thought I knew about life kind of crumbles, and you're left sitting with the pieces trying to build, you know, what you can. And you know, the situation like me going through that divorce, like that's one thing, and that's honestly, it was back in 2020, like during COVID and everything, and we all know that was such a fun time anyway. Everybody just had a great 2020 with COVID and everything. But so when it happened, I also, like a few months before the divorce actually happened, I ended up losing my job as a pastor too. And so I already had this little, when I was pastoring, I had my identity tied to that job and not to the calling and not to the purpose of that job. And so when that happened, I spiraled into depression. And so because I didn't know who I was without having that title. And that's why I try to be a component of, like, titles don't really mean anything. It's your purpose that means everything. That's what gives you passion, joy, hope, for you to walk in your day-to-day life. And you can't lose that. You can get fired from a job and not lose that. And so, anyway, so went through the divorce, and I sort of, I kind of spiraled there for a few months. I had about 6 months where, I was doing whatever I wanted, however I wanted, and just kind of living life. Almost like sowing oats. You always hear that kind of connotation, that saying. But I got zero fulfillment out of it. And so you start doing a deep dive and like an inventory of your life, and you're like, hey, like, I've got to go back to some roots of like who I am. And so for my entire life, I had tried to be kind of a chameleon of being like, oh, well, if I can fit in here by acting this way, then that's what I'm going to do. And I would do that. I would change my personality based on whatever setting that I'm in. That's very tiring over time.
Yes.
And so finally, I just got to the point where I'm like, look, I'm going to be who I am, and the people that are okay with that will be in my life. That sounds like, a lonely situation, but it's actually a very freeing situation to go through, because it doesn't, when you act like a chameleon, other people are just friends with you when you act like that way. But when you are who you are and who you're made to be, that situation, when you act like that, you start understanding that people love you for who you are. And so, but it didn't come overnight. Like, I'm a big supporter of going to therapy. Like, I went through therapy during that time to get through, and I was actually diagnosed with depression. And so, there was a lot of hard work of going through my childhood and seeing little things happen that you think are not a big deal, but until you start piecing all of the pieces together, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh wow, that's why I am that way. And so went through a lot of therapy, and I still go to therapy. My life has been great. I am no longer depressed or anything like that. I've actually had some victory over that, but I still go to therapy because I believe that everybody needs to go to therapy. Everybody needs somebody to talk to. So if you're on that fence and you're a man that is like, oh, I don't want to go, I know it's hard and I know it's scary, and trust me, when I say that, I know because I was that guy. But you're gonna reap some fruit out of it that will change your life. So go talk to someone, and that would be my pitch for that. But during that time, it was a difficult time, but what came out of it was, I don't want to say it was worth the pain. But I was able to walk through that season in such a powerful way, because I just finally said, hey, this is who I am. This is what I'm gonna be, who I've called to be. And if that means I lose friendships, I lose friendships. But the people that are going to be around me in my life, that's the people who love me.
You hit some really, really strong points there that I kind of just want to like retouch up on.
Mhm.
So you kind of talked about being wrapped up in identity, and as guys, we wear many hats, right? Like we're the husband, we're the father, we're the career, we're all of these things. And having just completed a book called The Way of the Superior Man,
Mhm.
it talks a lot about finding that purpose and saying that how you can't show up with as well as you could as being the husband and the father and all this stuff until you really have like gained that understanding of purpose, like having that center of how important that is. And sometimes your purpose isn't necessarily the job that you have. Like
Yeah.
sometimes that's just a way that you make money. But like, I think having grown up and kind of like put in a system where like purpose and career have kind of become like one and the same, right? And that's
Mhm.
why so many people are miserable because they hate their job, but it isn't really the job's problem. It's just your lack of not having that like that calling or that purpose in your life.
Right. Yeah.
And kind of going in that route myself, like trying to figure out, what my purpose is, isn't necessarily my job, although I find a lot of meaning and purpose with my day job, but it isn't everything. So then you kind of go out and figure out some other things and trying to find, because like
Y-
you could have a lot of different purposes, and there's just
Yeah.
figuring out what that is.
That's and you're 100% right. A lot of people like I'm in a blessed situation. Uh, You know, the owner of the company I work for, and that's a core value of ours. Is like finding your purpose and helping. Like that's a part of our mission statement is helping people unlock
Mm.
that mission. And so, but to sit there and say like I've worked jobs that they don't give two hoots what my purpose is. Like they
Hmm.
care about what I produce.
Right.
And so like I get that side of it as well. And 90% of the time a paycheck's not going to be connected to your purpose,
Hmm.
right? What you have to do is you have to, in my opinion, you have to understand that you have to shift the mindset, right? It's not my purpose is centered around work. It's how inside of my work, how do I walk out in my purpose,
Hmm.
right? Because like we as men we walk in several different arenas, right? Like you said, um, like I'm a dad, I'm a husband, uh, I'm a metal roof salesman, I'm a podcast host, I'm a baseball coach. There's several different arenas, and then you get into the whole that's just in my small world or my inner circle. Then you go out and even further, and I'm this and that and that. It's easy to sit there and be like, well, what am I supposed to do? I can only do that in one area of my life, is walking my purpose through the podcast, right? It'd be easy to say that, but the thing is, in every arena that I step into, there is something that I can do inside of what my purpose is, which is to help people unlock, excuse me, unlock their potential, like that they have inside of them. So I can go on a baseball field and be coaching a bunch of 9-year-old baseball players, and yeah, I want them to be the best baseball player that they can be. Like I do, because baseball's by far the greatest sport on earth. But moreover than that, I want them to be the best men that they can be outside of outside of the chalk lines. I want them to one day grow up and maybe something that old Coach Corey said, you know, when they are holding their child for the first time in the hospital, help them understand that, when you're holding that baby in the hospital as a dad, this was my experience holding my first son. How am I going to do this? Maybe something I told them on a baseball field about, hey, listen, you've got this. You've got the tools inside of you. Maybe that thought pops up and helps them be the dad they need to be. And so it's all about understanding that your purpose and your job, they can walk hand in hand together. It's just how intentional you want to be with that. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. But it's hard. I don't want somebody watching this to sit there and be like, well, of course Corey thinks that he's a podcaster. Of course his purpose is fulfilled every day. Well, no. When you're selling a metal roof, there's not, without intentionality, there's not, just opportunities to talk to some roofer about, hey, what are you doing to try to make yourself better as a person? You have to be intentional with that conversation, and it all starts and revolves around building building a relationship with someone wherever you go.
Sure. And thinking about what you said, it's kind of almost like the idea of quality versus quantity, right? Like you
Yeah,
don't get to go out and do your purpose all day, but
yeah,
when you have a half an hour to feel like you're living in your purpose, like make that half an hour count.
yeah,
And even with that little bit of time could make the rest of the day go so much better. Like that's
yeah.
kind of how I'm figuring it out.
So, like, sometimes I think of it like this: like, if I go through a day and I'm giving, like, I don't have that passion, I don't have that fire, right? And maybe I'm going through the day and I'm giving 50% effort. If I'm able to take 30 minutes and tap into my passion and tap into my calling, my purpose, all of a sudden that life starts coming back into my chest, right? And I get really, really fired up, and I get, and then all of a sudden I go back into doing something that may not be purpose related, but all of a sudden I'm giving 100% because I've lived, I got that fire in my bones again. And so to me, that's a return on investment. I'm a big ROI guy when I think about like things. So return on investment. So if I can spend 30 minutes living just a little bit more of purpose, and walking in that with intention, and then all of a sudden my day goes a lot better, well, that's an easy call, right? But so many times, like, and the other thing I would say, a lot of people think that purpose is these big, massive moments, right? They think like, oh, like the clouds are going to split open and sunshine is going to come down and all of a sudden, like, I'm going to get this really cool moment. Like, no, purpose is small acts, like small intentional acts of, having a conversation with someone, helping, but it's all revolved around like who God called you to be.
Mhm.
Like in my opinion, like I believe that that's the biggest thing is God placed something inside of each of us, and without you walking in that purpose, there's a gap, there's something missing in the world. And so I think that you just absolutely 100% have to understand that you're given small moments to make big impacts, and it all hinges on how intentional you are with it.
Mm.
And so that's how I try to frame my day up. Does it work every time? No. Do I take every opportunity? No. I'm still a lazy bum some days and don't do the things I need to do, and that's part of life. But just understand, like, when given a small opportunity, take it. Like, just take that. And over time, we say it like a lot like this around the businesses, like small acts plus consistency multiplied by time equals unstoppable momentum.
Love it.
Uh,
Love it.
so
Yeah, man. And time just flew by. Like
I know,
I
dude. I
just
know.
got the signal of like, you know what, it's time to do the wrap up. And I promise, for you that are listening, that we will at some point figure out how to make these go longer because I'm sure we could talk a lot about this.
Yeah.
But I would just direct you, listener, to go ahead and go join our friend over on his podcast because this is what they talk about all the time. And then they have hours of content. And I really, really like the time, Corey, that you spent with us. Just a little bit of the wisdom that you have gained. And just to kind of wrap things up here, we'll just leave with the final question of who it
Yeah.
is that you admire. Like,
It would be really cool to say somebody like Teddy Roosevelt or somebody like that. Like, I'm a huge fan of him, but dude, it's my dad. Like, my dad is a maintenance man in a steel mill,
mm,
and dude, I may cry thinking about my dad. Like, the sacrifices he made for me. Um, he worked third shift for a lot of my teenage years, and just sacrificed a ton. And there's days I look at my kids, and I'm like, if I'm half the dad that my dad was to me, my kids are going to be extremely blessed. And there's days that I wake up and I'm like, how did my dad do this? Because like we talked about, dads, like, and men, we have a lot of pressure on us, and we have a lot of things that pull at us and pull those strings, and we become pressurized, and you're like, man, I can't take this anymore. And I never saw my dad crack. And thankfully he's still alive, and I get to have great conversations with him. He's truly one of my best friends, and we go golf, and he tries to beat me, and he still can't do it. But he's getting better. And so just the way that my dad carried life and he raised me, he's somebody that I look up to still, and hope that when I take my last breaths that my sons can look at me and say, I had a great dad, just like my grandpa. So
it's awesome. Sounds like a wonderful guy.
yeah,
Awesome.
he is.
Real quick, how can we find you?
Yeah, so we're on all major podcast networks. But our biggest is YouTube, so you can look up Yoders Talk on YouTube, or any of the, you can Google us. But we have a Facebook page as well that's kind of popping off, and then TikTok. As much as I don't know, I'm iffy on TikTok, but go follow our TikTok. We post like a lot of stuff. We're doing a series right now called Did You Realize? And they're just shorts, and we're doing that for 365 days
Awesome.
straight. So go check that out. But Yoders Talk, and you can find us. So
Awesome, man. Thanks again, Corey. It's been a great
absolutely,
conversation, and hopefully, maybe someday back in the future, we'll have you back on here, and we'll
buddy. Yeah,
see how's it
man.
going.
Well,
So,
yeah, you. The biggest thing with me, man, is now we're friends. So
yes,
you reach out to us, and we're going to build that relationship. So we're an open book over here. So if you have
love
any
it,
questions, man, we're here for you.
love it for sure. Yes, this has been the Man Shift Guide, and this is the kind of conversations that you're going to hear on the weekly. This is episode number, I think we're like at 8 or 9 by now. It's been really fun doing this, and love the engagement and the comments that we've been getting here. And I just ask to please continue to do so, and reach out to some of these guests too. Let them know that, hey, I heard you over on the Man Shift Guide, and I really think what you're doing is cool. So like that would be a good nod to be like, hey, we're getting out there in the world. So, but in the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful week, and we'll be seeing you on the next one.